Hi, everyone. Welcome to Gilda's Club's presentation of leisure activities and cancer. We're happy to have our occupational therapy student, Katie Henderson, presenting for us tonight. And on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Katie. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, thanks, Anita. And thank you for attending tonight. Like Anita said, tonight we're going to be talking about leisure activities and cancer. First, I'll introduce myself. My name is Katie, and I'm an OT student at KU Med, and I am doing my capstone project this semester at Gilda's Club. So I have been doing many different programs, mainly on symptom management, like side effects from cancer and cancer treatment that can impact one's ability to do what they want and need to do each day. So that's been my main focus. And I've also been doing social media posts with like an OT tip Tuesday and then a fun Friday leisure activity idea. So with that fun Friday social media post that I've been doing, that's kind of what I'll highlight here today in our leisure activities and cancer program towards the end there. And I just decided to do a capstone project with OT's role in cancer care because it's an emerging area of practice and it's a very important area. I did want to mention that I do have OT consultation hours that are Tuesday afternoons and Friday mornings, just to help anyone if they feel that they would like some extra support managing any side effects from cancer and cancer treatment to help them do whatever it is that they might be having difficulty doing throughout their day. I can help with creating goals and problem solving and help making a plan for reaching different goals that you may have with what you want to get back to doing in your life. So if you're interested, my email is on the screen. It's intern@gildasclubkc.org. You can email me and I can answer any questions or we can set up a meeting. So OT's role in leisure activities, OTs really understand and value engaging in meaningful activities in everyone's life and the impact that leisure has on one's health and well-being. I'll go into more research here in a minute, but OTs really promote leisure exploration and participation. And we can help with modifying either the task or the environment just to minimize any barriers that you may have to doing whatever that leisure activity is that you want to do. We can also help with restoring routines and skills to help you do those leisure activities that you are interested in as well. So the whole kind of outcomes that OTs would be working on in this area would be to basically just improve one's leisure activity performance and their satisfaction and being able to do that in their life and just feeling that they have control, competence, and appreciation for the leisure activities that they're able to engage in. So I just wanted to touch on that real fast. In an outline for tonight, I'll go over some research on leisure, socialization, and cancer. I'll talk about self-management and how you can kind of make a goal and plan for whatever leisure activity you may want to get back into, how we can establish new routines, and then I'll talk about opportunities for leisure engagement that are kind of based off of the Fun Friday leisure activity idea posts that I've been doing on social media. So we'll get into it and starting with the research on leisure, socialization, and cancer. So I just want to start off with kind of the definition for leisure. One definition is that it's a non-obligatory activity that is intrinsically motivated and engaged in during discretionary time. That is time that's not committed to, I can't say that word very well. Basically things that you need to do, such as work, self-care, and sleep. And leisure exploration is basically just identifying those interests, the skills, opportunities, and leisure activities that you're interested in. And then leisure participation is kind of what it sounds like, being able to plan and actually participate in those activities, being able to balance activities with other occupations and things you have to do throughout the day, and obtaining, using, and maintaining the equipment and supplies that are needed for whatever that activity may be. So I just want to touch on the balance of work and leisure. I know, at least for myself, it can be hard to maintain this balance, but it is crucial to work on this balance for our mental and our physical health. If you have an imbalance in kind of these areas, like if you're having too much time working with minimal, if at all, any time spent in any leisure and fun activities, that can really negatively impact our health and quality of life. So it's important to keep this in mind and, always work to have a good balance between work and leisure. But I did want to note too that our attitude towards an activity or a task determines whether it's leisure or work. So what I mean by that, for me, something like gardening might be considered more like work, because it isn't, maybe something that I'm super interested in, and that could feel more like work to me. Whereas for someone else, that could be like a big interest for them and something that they find enjoyable. So that would be like a leisure activity for them. So it really determines on, the person and what your interests are. And it doesn't always have to be that separate as well. So types of leisure, we can have quiet leisure, which is kind of more passive activities like watching TV, video games, reading, crafts, things like that. There can also be active leisure, which are more like recreational activities, things that involve physical exertion, moving. And active leisure has been shown to minimize negative effects of a sedentary lifestyle. And then the third type of leisure is socialization, which I'll get into socialization more in just a moment. But I did want to note on here that having any sort of physical impairment or physical barrier does not mean that you can't engage in any sort of active leisure. It doesn't mean you have to only focus on the quiet leisure type. With help from an OT, healthcare team members, modifications and strategies can be found to help, maintain and restore your participation in active leisure activities if that's what's of interest to you. So I just want to go through these real fast and just show more examples of kind of what I mean by active leisure. And you can think about to yourself what kind of things you might, be interested in your own life, or things that you used to do and maybe could get back into. So these are just a bunch of examples. You can read them on the screen, but I'll note some, yoga, walking, dancing, any sort of running, jogging, ping pong, bowling. So yeah, all of these types of things and more. You might have some interests that aren't even listed on here, but those are the kinds of things that would be considered active leisure. The next one here, these are examples of quiet leisure type activities. So things like I mentioned, but these can be more crafts. So like sewing, cross stitch, doing photography, maybe listening to music, just things like these. So you can also think about, in regards to quiet leisure, what might be some interests that you have in this area, things you may have forgotten about because, I know at least for me, it's easy to, keep my focus on work or school things and then not prioritize as much time as I should for leisure. So making this PowerPoint kind of helped even me discover some more, leisure activities that I really should prioritize more time for. But some research I found that's specifically on leisure engagement and individuals with cancer. The first study at the top here, for individuals that were seeking OT consultation after they were receiving their cancer treatment, most of these individuals reported having issues in the area of recreation and leisure. So those things like we kind of mentioned on the previous slides, but sports, hobbies, socialization, things like that. Another study noted that for young adults post-treatment, they reported having dissatisfaction with IADLs, which can be things like cooking, shopping, taking care of pets, things like that. High physical demand leisure, so having dissatisfaction with some of the physical active leisure that we mentioned, and also social activities, which are also part of leisure. And in the third study I noted year. Out of 111 women that were diagnosed with cancer and included in this study, 42 indicated that they experienced challenges with leisure, and 46 indicated challenges of social participation, which again is, one of the types of leisure, and socialization and leisure really coincide. More research on this study looked at the outcomes of leisure engagement, and for women with breast and ovarian cancer in Honduras, Nicaragua, and Portugal. 86.8% of these women reported positive outcomes for engaging in leisure activities. And I listed the highest, leisure activities areas that they reported most positively. So those things were like making new friends, that support network is huge, increasing self-esteem, developing new talents and competencies. And they felt that when engaging in leisure activities, they felt that they were not overthinking about their illness as much. And then 41.1% of these individuals reported negative outcomes of engaging in leisure activities. So I did want to know on the opposite side what individuals did know. It was, drastically lower there, but some noted energy loss. That was like most reported by a very big margin there. As fatigue can be a main side effect of cancer and cancer treatment. Other things noted were tension and then discomfort when engaging in leisure activities. But overall, those who did engage in leisure activities, they reported a higher subjective well-being. So overall, more positives than some of the negatives. And then I did want to touch on social isolation and loneliness in older adults. So older adults can experience more social isolation, and those that did have social isolation and loneliness had an increased risk of physical and mental issues, falls, poor nutrition, cognitive decline, disease, rehospitalization, stress, depression, heavier alcohol consumption, high blood pressure, and mortality. So I thought that was just good to note, since socialization and leisure are really interrelated. And then specific to individuals with cancer, social isolation and loneliness increase the risk of metastases, tumor growth, increased inflammation, chemotherapy, toxicity, impaired immune system, morbidity, and mortality. And having health and wellness risks also were associated with social isolation in this study. And I just want to note that mitigating risks helps improve physical and mental health and also quality of life. So improvements in socialization also can lead to improvements in leisure activities. That's why they're kind of interrelated. And another thing, this study was actually before COVID. So it's just, interesting to think of, COVID definitely contributed to social isolation and loneliness as well. So, what the impacts of that are as well. And then also thinking about, what opportunities do we have for social isolation despite, or for socialization despite, being more isolated to our homes during that time. But in regards to social support, it is necessary to have social support when navigating changes in life and the emotional impact that can come with cancer. So I did want to note that there are these 4 realms of social support noted: emotional support, instrumental support, informational support, and appraisal support, that are all really important. And so you can kind of look at what's kind of included in all of those. But social network positively influences one's adherence to their cancer treatment and also with managing the illness. And also social support is critical to optimization and participation in cancer treatment in all realms. So with managing side effects, coordinating care, just everything you do throughout your day, and emotional support, social support just really does have a big impact. And unmet social needs. So this study, 2/3 of older adults who had cancer noted that they had at least one social support need, and 45% of these individuals included had at least one unmet social support need. So as you can see that the highest support need was medical support, but they're all kind of closely linked behind there. And common unmet needs that were noted was feeling that they didn't have someone to communicate worries with, help with fatigue, and help with daily chores if they were feeling sick. And if you had more unmet social support needs, it did lead to lower quality of life. In the subgroups that had more unmet needs in this study were minority groups, those who were unmarried, lower income, and higher symptoms experienced. So I did just want to note research that I found that's out there that involves socialization, social support, and cancer, just since that is a big part of leisure engagement. But the benefits of leisure participation can be decrease in stress, improve psychosocial well-being. It can provide meaning to the things that you're doing each and every day, promotes health, and decrease medical costs, in turn with that. And then with social participation, social support, you can have positive implications for leisure engagement. Like I mentioned, if you kind of improve one area, it helps improve the other since it's kind of interrelated. It can lead to feeling enriched in your life, being more adjusted emotionally, and can have an impact on survival as well. But both leisure participation and social participation are critical to health and well-being. So now that I mentioned why it's so important to, have these socialization opportunities and get this social support, I did want to mention, what Gilda's Club can offer in those realms as well. So there are many different support groups available to connect with others. And if you're interested in that, I did put the info@gildasclubkc.org email. So being in a support group and getting that support that way is one great way. There's also one-on-one support available at Gilda's Club through short-term counseling. So if that's something that you think would be beneficial for you, again, you can email that email. Other ways to get that socialization, phone calls, reaching out to family and friends you don't talk to on a regular basis. You can lead your own Zoom calls to connect with family and friends, play virtual games, table topics, get different, questions to answer, things like that. Write a letter or send a card to someone to brighten their day. Provide mentorship to someone in an area that you are interested in or have a lot of knowledge in. Animal assisted therapy, I'll go into more later. You can also go on a walk with others or call people while on a walk after talking to your doctor, of course, to ensure safety for you. But these are just some opportunities for socialization and social support. And then again, these are some more ideas as well. So you can kind of think about, what areas you do get that socialization and feel supported in, and then, where you might be able to enrich this area as well. So now we'll move into the self-management portion. And just as it relates to cancer and the barriers that you may experience with leisure participation. So as you registered for the class tonight, I believe Anita was able to send a document that was titled Self-Management for Leisure Engagement. So if you do have that with you and you're able to reference it right now, that would be helpful as we'll go through kind of each aspect of that document. And if not, we'll definitely get that to you afterwards. This is kind of what it looks like if that helps jog your memory, but we'll go through kind of each of the areas here to help manage barriers and just promote leisure engagement in whatever activity might be of interest to you. So I'll start off with a little bit of evidence on an intervention that used a self-management approach. So this one piece of evidence is on a 6-week self-management program for individuals that had a chronic disease. And these participants after this program felt that they had an increase in activity frequency and self-perception of their performance. And they also had satisfaction when compared to those that weren't in this program. So the program consisted of goal setting, self-management, and also having the peer support. So we'll go through these areas now. So first, identify kind of what leisure activity you would like to get back to, or something that is new that you would like to try. And something that's really important to think about too, when you're thinking about what you would like to do more of in your life, is kind of why you would like to do that, because knowing the why can help to really motivate, and also help when you're trying to establish a routine, because it can, be hard to add anything new within your life. But when you consider the why and why it's important to you and why you think you would enjoy it, that can help to really motivate and help establish that routine. And another way to kind of do this is to consider even making a visual of your why, to have it as a consistent reminder. So that it helps with the motivation and establishing a routine. So if you do have this paper out with you, you can go ahead and fill it out with a leisure activity of interest that you may have that you want to kind of get back to doing in your life, and then write down your why. And then the next part of this is the goal section. So writing a goal can really help with, staying motivated and focused to kind of complete that activity, whatever it might be. So you can write a short-term goal that, can be kind of whatever it means to you, but within a week or a few weeks, or a long-term goal could be a few months, related to whatever activity that may be. And try to make your goal kind of like a SMART goal, which is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. I put an example at the bottom here. So something that I'm wanting to get better at is reading more often. I have a lot of books that are on my list, but I have not gotten to them very fast. So a short-term goal could be for me to read 2 nights each week. And then a long-term goal could be to read 1 book in 1 month. So you can write both a short-term and a long-term goal, and then use this short-term goal more of as like a stepping stone to a long-term goal, kind of like my example did. And then also try to set more basic goals first. And then as you meet those kind of smaller goals, you can then make more challenging goals later on, because meeting your goals can really, help be a motivator. If I made a goal, to read like 4 books in 1 month, that wouldn't be as, achievable for me. And now we're going to move on to the barriers to engagement portion. So this is that portion of the document that you might be referencing. So consider barriers. What makes it challenging to engage in this right now? So what's getting in the way of you doing whatever this activity is? There can be cancer-related barriers, the side effects that you may experience from the cancer and the treatment, things like pain, fatigue, weakness, any restrictions in movement and mobility. You might have sensation changes like with neuropathy that can impact your engagement in leisure. You may feel depressed or have some anxiety or have cognitive changes. And then in addition to cancer-related barriers that you may or may not experience, think about what other barriers that might be impacting why it might be more challenging to engage in this. So time, other priorities that you may have, balancing those priorities could be a challenge. Taking care of others, that kind of goes with the priorities, but in work expectations, COVID is, can obviously be a barrier for a lot of different leisure activities. And then also environmental barriers, like with the physical environment, if you need to get somewhere to be able to do whatever activity you're thinking of, and that's a barrier to you, things like that. And noticing these barriers is really helpful for them being able to find ways, solutions to manage it so that you are able to do these things that you want to do. So Then also thinking about like the details within the barrier, like why is it a barrier? How is it a barrier? So that you're able to better manage it. And then for each barrier that you listed, the next kind of portion I have here is ways to manage it. So I'll go in a little bit more in depth with kind of examples of each of these categories, but ways to manage barriers could be modifying the task, whatever activity it is, trying to modify parts of it, or modifying the environmental demands if those demands are too high, utilizing compensatory techniques and strategies, or trying to restore skills or abilities over time. So with modifying a task or environmental demands, things you could do would be trying to simplify whatever that activity is. If you can break it into smaller steps, that could make it more easier, including rest breaks as well. Maybe if fatigue is a consideration, even including another person to assist you when needed could be a good like stepping stone to getting back into doing whatever that activity is. Trying to manage the expectations you have for engaging in this activity. If it's something you used to do and you might have new barriers to it now, just manage those expectations and know that it might take some time to complete the activity. You can create visuals to remember the steps of a task if it might be difficult to remember everything that's involved in whatever the activity is. Utilizing adaptive equipment, which I'll go into more in a moment. Changing your position to minimize strain on your body or reducing fatigue. So things like sitting down while cooking, if that's something you want to do more, or baking, so that you reduce fatigue and kind of moving materials closer to your body so that you don't have to bend and reach, things like that. Trying to eliminate distractions, either visual distractions or just noise in the environment, if that, makes it more difficult with attention or things like that. Those are just some examples to think about. And then with adaptive equipment, so you could use an assisted device as a solution to a barrier if that barrier involves having an issue with a skill or ability that is required of the activity. So something like if you're experiencing weakness or impaired sensation, reduced mobility, pain, fatigue, there could be equipment that could help with engaging in this activity. And there are actually so many options depending on the activity and your needs. So I just listed a few, but if there's something that you are specifically, interested in, definitely, reach out to me and we can look at different equipment options that are available. So things like a long-handled reacher can help with grabbing things that are too high or too low. Using a built-up handle or a universal cuff or a textured grip on some sort of utensil can really help if you're having any weakness in your hands. A Dyson non-slip mat can be helpful as well with weakness and just stabilizing whatever that activity is. Using a rolling storage cart to keep materials nearby so that you don't have to, gather all the materials from a lot of different places. So I did want to just add in one example of things that you might not think about. So if you really like to sew, but if you're feeling that your grasp might be weak, or if you have kind of difficulty moving those fingers in the small movements that are required for sewing, there are a lot of different pieces of equipment that I found online that can help specifically with sewing. So you can even have like battery operated or easier grip scissors if cutting, fabric is difficult. There's actually an automatic needle threader or easy threading needles, a needle stabilizer, different adaptations that you can put onto your sewing machine, and a lot more. So I put the link there for where I found these sewing tools at, but like I mentioned, there are so many more options for equipment that can help with different activities. I know there's adaptive equipment for fishing, just so many things out there. So if there's something that you're interested in and you feel like you could benefit from a piece of equipment, definitely reach out, or you can look online as well too. So compensatory techniques are just strategies that can help you engage in an activity in a different or easier way. So these are just some examples. trying to plan what you need for an activity prior to starting, thinking about the time of day that might be best for managing certain barriers that you may experience. So if fatigue is a main barrier for you, thinking about, what time of day might be the best for doing whatever activity it is that you're trying to do, when you might have the most energy. Trying to pace yourself, not rushing through an activity, using rest breaks, like I mentioned. Or another example is if you're out in the community, consider, using a transport wheelchair if you become fatigued easily, just so that you're can conserve your energy and have enough energy to do whatever that activity is. Thinking about positioning again, having just proper posture and body mechanics so that you don't put more strain on your body. Utilizing pursed lip breathing to manage fatigue throughout an activity, if that's something that is a barrier for you. Or if cognitive changes are one of the barriers that you may be experiencing, there are different strategies that you can use, such as listing out the steps of an activity, setting reminders or alarms, using a daily planner to schedule things, sticky notes for reminders, things like that. And then restoring skills and abilities is another way to manage certain barriers. So you can potentially restore skills that have been impaired by cancer or cancer treatment if they may be a barrier. So such things as, like, if you're experiencing some weakness, increasing strength, or you can, work to increase endurance, stamina, range of motion, getting mobility back. And forms of exercise can help build up these lost abilities. I didn't go into depth with this as it's so unique person to person on what might be right for you. So if you have any questions or would like to talk more, you can definitely reach out to me, but also always consult your medical team before engaging in any sort of exercise or physical activity to just ensure that it's safe and the right step for you to take. And then the last part that I had on that sheet is opportunities for support. So seeking social support in any way that you feel would be best for you. So once cancer-related barriers are recognized, you can talk with your medical team to develop a plan for managing the impact these barriers have on your life. And I did want to note that if you do have a side effect from cancer or cancer treatment, and you feel it's impacting your ability to do what you want to enjoy in your life, it's really important to discuss this with professionals to find ways that we can manage that. Other ways for support are kind of some of the social support areas that I mentioned before, but that individualized emotional support through Gilda's Club, counseling, peer support gained through support groups at Gilda's Club, or just finding a group of individuals that do whatever activity you're trying to get involved in, like a book club if you're trying to read more, things like that. That can help with motivation and also give you those socialization benefits. So now we're going to go into establishing new routines. So where to start when trying to, make a new leisure activity part of your routine? It goes back to remembering your why. So make sure you really want to do whatever this activity is, and that you have your why that you can, consistently go back to, because it is difficult to add something into a routine. So making sure it's something that you really want to do is important. Setting goals. So starting small. If you try to drastically change routines, it likely won't last. So just trying to start small with changing routines in a small way, and then celebrating when you do reach those goals. Considering if you can add something to an existing habit that can make it easier to add something to your routine. So like if I wanted to read more, adding reading into my already existing routine of drinking coffee in the morning, things like that. And then establishing support for accountability is important. So with developing a plan, thinking about having a consistent schedule, that's very important to maintain consistency so that it becomes a part of your routine. So blocking out times in your calendar that you can devote to that leisure activity. Thinking about what strategies and modifications you can use to manage the barriers, who you might need help from. Having this plan ahead of time will be really helpful. And then using a planner or an agenda to plan activities based on the barriers you're managing. So like I mentioned, planning activities based on like a pattern of fatigue that you may have. And if you do plan ahead of time for an activity, like everything you need, any resources, things like that, that can help with minimizing stress during the activity, which would definitely be beneficial. And then also just consider issues that may come up within your plan. So how can you be flexible, and what could be a plan B if issues arise? Like if I'm not able to read when drinking my coffee because I woke up too late, instead, my plan B could be reading before bed that night. So just things like that. And on that self-management worksheet, if you scroll to the second page, there is an action plan kind of portion that you can be filling out along with this. And this is kind of a visual about what that looks like. So yeah, and then monitoring progress over time can be really helpful when establishing a routine, and finding a way that's best for you to monitor that progress. So it can be beneficial to put a goal, whatever that goal is for you, somewhere that you might reference it easily. So, putting it on a bathroom mirror or the refrigerator, just so it's a reminder constantly. Kind of going back to that why too, you can put your why and your goal like somewhere that you might be able to reference it easily. Checking off each day that you did whatever activity it is on your calendar can be a good visual, as well as like making a checklist and checking off the activities once you complete them. That can be a way to monitor progress. There are also some apps that you might find helpful to track habits and routines. So one is called Streaks and one is called a Productive Habit Tracker. So if using your phone is something that is easiest for you, you could look into these apps and they might be helpful. But again, just consistently going back to your why to remind yourself and motivate yourself to, consistently, engage in whatever this is and make it part of your routine. Prompts and reinforcers can be helpful. So a prompt would be like having a calendar, a schedule, checklist, and places that you'll see, like I mentioned, because that can prompt you to follow a routine. And then also maybe setting up phone reminders or alarms to prompt you to just give that reminder to engage in the activity in that scheduled time that you allotted for. A reinforcer could be checking the items off the to-do list, like I mentioned, updating whatever progress monitoring sheet you might have, and then celebrating those goals when you do accomplish them. But the big thing with routines is just remember to give yourself compassion. There's going to be ups and downs with establishing a new routine. It can be difficult. So if you miss a day or if you don't follow through with the plan you set out exactly as you had hoped, it's okay. No one's perfect. The most important thing is to remember to keep going and remember your why. So now I'm going to go into different opportunities for leisure engagement. And these are all taken from the Fun Friday leisure activity idea post that I've made on social media through Gilda's Club. So if you see something that might interest you, you can also go back to the social media accounts that we have, and I have this information there as well. So like I mentioned, these are all kind of outlined on social media posts that I have made. So journaling is one area that I mentioned that can be a leisure activity. It can help to improve memory, process emotions, strengthen relationships, improve sleep, reduce fatigue. And when thinking about how you could, start journaling, there's really no wrong way. Using a format that is most comfortable for you. So you can use, paper and pen for journaling, or there's some apps, as I mentioned here, Day One or Diarium, that you can use if you think doing it on your phone might be of more interest to you. But just setting aside 5 to 10 minutes for yourself around the same time each day to journal about just anything that comes to mind, events throughout your day, just reflecting on emotions, how you're feeling, or even using journal prompts if that's what you think might be easiest for you. And I did outline some journal prompts on this slide. They are also on the social media posts that I mentioned, so I won't go through all of them, but there are prompts that you can find at the links below here or on the internet just as well. But I did want to note that if journaling does result in more distress than relief, or if you just like additional support, definitely seek professional mental health counseling at Gilda's Club to get those needs met. Another idea for leisure activities could be virtual travel. So with COVID, I know traveling hasn't been, something that we all may have done that much the past few years. So one great thing that's come out of the pandemic, at least I think it started with COVID, is that there are a lot of different options online to experience different world travel tours and things like that, more than you'd really realize. So these are some different options here that I've listed. Yoga is another activity that does have a lot of benefits. It's been shown to reduce fatigue during and after cancer treatments. In another study on breast and gynecological cancers for individuals that had symptoms of neuropathy, participating in yoga found to decrease their pain, reduce fall risk, improve anxiety, and improve functional outcomes. And then another study found that yoga can improve sleep quality and reduce the use of sleep medication after cancer treatment. So definitely benefits of yoga. And we do offer virtual gentle yoga classes at Gilda's Club. So you can find those through our website. And there's also many yoga videos online that do offer seated options too. So it's important to remember safety considerations. If you do experience issues with balance or have had falls, performing yoga in a seated position with back support would be the safest option. And just starting slow and listening to your body's signs of needing a break and to rest. Things like if you're experiencing any discomfort, pain, dizziness, those are definite signs of needing a break there. But before engaging in any yoga, definitely talk with your doctor to make sure that it's a safe option for you. But another place where you can find some yoga classes is also Turning Point. And then Tai Chi. I have highlighted Tai Chi in some of my Fun Friday posts, but Tai Chi is just meditation in motion. It's an ancient Chinese tradition. It's like a mind-body exercise that incorporates physical, spiritual, behavioral, and psychosocial aspects. So the movements are kind of slow and they flow together. So the idea is that you're in constant motion. But what's really great about Tai Chi is that you can modify it easily. And it's a more low to moderate intensity exercise that puts minimal stress on the body. So for older adults with neuropathy from chemo, Tai Chi has been found to improve strength, balance, and stamina. There were also other benefits, as you can see on the screen there, reducing cancer-related fatigue, decreasing depression, anxiety, stress, reducing risk of falls. So a lot of benefits there. And there are a lot of options available on YouTube, and Turning Point also has some weekly Tai Chi classes. I also found a resource in the Johns County area for Tai Chi if you're interested, but I do have to note the safety considerations again. So although it's generally safe, you definitely should talk to your doctor before engaging in Tai Chi to make sure it's safe for you. And consider performing Tai Chi seated because there are lots of seated options available, and it's easy to modify to a seated position, especially if you experience balance or fall difficulties. Another area is with walking. So there are a lot of benefits of walking for individuals with cancer post-treatment. It can protect against cognitive decline. Another study showed improvement in anxiety and depression, and another study showed reduced fatigue. So I know we're kind of running out of time. I'm going to move through these a little bit faster, But again, all of these are located on our social media, and you can reach out to me as well for more resources with these. But walking is definitely can be a good source of active leisure. And there are many different walking trails in KC. So you can find these either on the TrailLink app or the alltrails.com to see what trails might be nearest you. You can also, make walking more enjoyable by calling someone on the phone, getting that socialization aspect by walking with a friend or family member, or listening to music or a podcast or an audiobook. Lots of different options. Again, make sure to talk with your doctor before engaging in any type of exercise. I did a post on art, and there were, many benefits for individuals with chronic conditions, having improved or reduced stress, anxiety, pain, depression, promoting emotional resilience, self-discovery, self-expression, enhanced confidence, greater ability to cope, increased quality of life. So many different benefits for engaging in art. And I found some virtual art classes online from an artist. So there is the link there if you're interested. There are so many different classes that are available, from more kind of basic ones to getting into really advanced types of art. So I was very impressed by that. Another way to maybe view art, if that's kind of more your speed, which is more kind of what I would probably be most comfortable with, would be viewing art museums online. So Google Arts and Culture has many different virtual tours of famous museums and sites and other kind of art related games. So you can definitely check that out. And then I did kind of a post on the benefits of games. There are socialization benefits, benefits with cognition, and also emotional benefits. I'll kind of go fast through here, but if you do feel most safe staying at home, there are still ways that you can play games with others virtually. So at this link here at the bottom in the orange square, it's an article that has all these different games and more links to where you can play them virtually. So kind of setting up a Zoom meeting, and then you can play different card games. So you get that socialization aspect, but you can stay at home. So that can be really nice, even to connect with people that don't live in your area as well. And then animal companionship, I think, is my last part here. There are a lot of benefits for having an animal around and getting to spend time with animals, such as increased comfort and motivation, increased physical activity, taking care of a pet, reducing stress, anxiety, depression, providing a sense of security, purpose, and achievement, self-confidence, socialization. It can contribute to a structured daily routine, and there's also physiological benefits as well. So animal companionship options. There is animal-assisted therapy, which is using animals that are usually dogs to help cope during cancer treatment. And there are benefits with animal-assisted therapy, but if that's not an option, I know it's not available everywhere, but the benefits of animals can be found through other avenues, such as service dogs. And if you're interested in that, I have a link there. And also emotional support. Animals can be used as comfort for individuals with mental health issues. Or if you have a friend or a family member that has an animal that you can just get your animal companionship through, that could be a good route. I know for me, I don't have any animals at this time, but I utilize friends that do. But this is kind of the end of my presentation. I was just curious what you all have as your favorite leisure activities. We might go ahead and stop sharing so we can have, or stop recording so we can have more of a discussion.